99 hustles. 99 hustles.
Welcome to the 99 Hustles podcast. I'm your host, Nick Carter.
And I'm your co-host, International Fees.
And today we're joined by another dope hustler. We're joined by none other than Kemoy Martin. Kemoy, welcome to the show, man. How you doing today?
Hey, man, I'm incredible. I'm grateful and I'm excited to be on the 99 Hustles podcast, man. Like I'm tapped in. Let's go.
Let's get it. We appreciate you taking the time to get on the show today, Kemoy. And for those that don't know, Kemoy is the owner of Limitless B&B, his coaching program, which specializes in real estate investing and short-term rentals. He is a multi-six-figure Airbnb entrepreneur who actually doesn't own a single Airbnb property. So we hope to kind of break that down a little bit and give the hustle fam some behind-the-scenes information there. But before we get into the business of things, Kemoy, why don't we talk a little bit about how you got started in the space itself, and a little bit about your background story.
Yeah, man. Like, sheesh, where do I start? I'll take it back to like 2013 because that's like when I really broke into this whole entrepreneurial world. The last job I was working at was Department of Social Services in Baltimore City, right? And if you know anything about Baltimore City, there's some parts that are very rough. And you know anything about social services, they don't pay a lot of money, right? And oftentimes they're in a very rough, the location of the office is in a very rough area. Mm-hmm. And after like a year or two of being there, I just got frustrated because that job had nothing to do with my degree. I had all this student loan debt. And I just got tired of driving my crackheads every morning, to be very honest. It was just not an exciting thing to drive through every single morning. I'm driving through traffic. It's like just crackheads everywhere. Right? It wasn't inspiring to me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I really need to change things. A good friend of mine referred me to a book called Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And that was like the first personal development book I've read in my life. And that book really changed my life because it really taught me about just like setting goals, living your dreams, and like really being intentional about your life and designing your life if you're not fulfilled. And no one really taught me about that. I was just trying to use this degree, right? So I really started applying all the things that I saw in that book. And that's when I started looking up different entrepreneurial endeavors. That's when I really started writing my goals. That's when I started really to believe I could be financially free. That book gave me belief.
Interesting.
And I was just so coachable, man. And I think I was so coachable because I was so frustrated, right? And I was so dissatisfied with where I was at. And because of that book, Jack Canfield talked about creating a mastermind group. And I found some like-minded friends that had similar dissatisfaction as me and that wanted to become more financially well off. And we would meet up like once a week. And one of my good friends shared me the concept of wholesaling real estate. And at that time, I had no idea what wholesaling real estate was. I was pretty broke. My social services was paying me about $28,000 a year. He told me, look, man, you can make a lot of money wholesaling real estate. You don't got to have a lot of money. And I was like, I don't have a lot of money.
Yeah. You're like, I don't have money and I want to make money. Sign me up.
Right. So like, I swear to you, like that night, like I went home and I literally like I Googled wholesale real estate and like I was up for hours, like looking up everything I could find on this like business. And I found a lot of cool, just like articles and blogs and YouTube videos. And I was just like binge watching. I was up till like 5 a.m. going crazy. And like every single day, I was just looking up stuff on wholesaling. And I just literally started self-educating myself. And I started just like marketing and looking for deals. And I had this crazy idea that I was going to quit my job in August of 2013. Mind you, this is like around like March, April-ish of 2013. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a bunch of money in this wholesaling thing. I'm being this entrepreneur. I'm making a lot of money. Like, I'm going to just quit my job. I'm going to go all in. I'm reading all these books because, mind you, when I read that one book, Success Principles, I started reading more books because I was like, man, if one book can get me this fired up, I need more books. And like, it was like,
were you a reader before this, or
no,
did this book kind of just like change everything for you?
I hated reading books. Like, you had to force me to read books. Like, I came down to Baltimore to go to Morgan State University, and like, I didn't really take school seriously. Like, I just did, I just did enough to get by.
Just to get by, yeah.
Yeah, that was me. Like, I
listen. They told us we had to go to college, or you end up working at McDonald's if you didn't go. Yeah, so exactly. A lot of people that probably shouldn't have been in college were there.
Exactly.
And that's most entrepreneur story too, is like, man, you're smart enough to get by in the whole system and thing, but you're not fully into it. You're only fully into it if it's yours. You feel me? Like, I have to run it and own it.
Exactly. So I didn't like reading. But it was like these books, these personal development books got me like excited. And it was like, and I think I didn't like reading because it was the stuff that I was being told to read. And it was because I really started liking this stuff, like talking about goals, dreams, steps to become financially free, steps to grow your mindset, getting out your comfort zone. Like, it was like stuff that I really wanted to learn and become. Mm-hmm. And that's why I just started reading more and more books. And it was like the more and more books I read, the more I started learning, the more I started applying, the more I started to believe what was possible, and the more I wanted to become wealthy. Mm. Like, it was just like, I got so engulfed into it. It was like, man, I knew that I had to become free. I knew I had to become successful now. Like, it was just locked in my mind. Mm. So, but then I made I had this crazy thought of, man, I'm going to quit my job August 2013. And I would never tell anybody to do that. Right. Like,
this is not advice. This is just his story.
This is just my story. Because, so many people, they're like, yo, I want to start this business. I want to make a lot of money. I want to become, a full-time entrepreneur, quit my job. And I get it. It's sexy, right? Mm-hmm. To become this entrepreneur, right? And I think I was excited too. But here's what I knew. I knew that I was going to do what it took. Right? Like that. And that's the thing. Like, if you're going to make a decision like that, you have to know in your heart of hearts that you're going to really do everything of what it takes. Like, I understood it wasn't going to be easy. Completely aware. I understood I was going to have to sacrifice. I knew that, I was trading a 9 to 5 for a 24/7. Like, I knew what it was. I was aware.
Yeah. Did that awareness come strictly from like those books that you were reading, or was this something like you may have came across before but didn't really understand what, like, how to do it, how to apply it?
A lot of the books, I was listening to a lot of audios. I was paying attention to a lot of success stories. And I pledged a frat. Okay. So I understand process.
Okay, gotcha.
I understand the process.
You know what it means to start from the bottom.
Yeah. And I understand that it's worth it when you finish, right? When you stick it through. So I ended up quitting my job in August of 2013. And mind you, I never did a deal yet.
Oh, so you quit even before you made all the money?
Yeah, 100%. I started this wholesaling thing like March, April of 2013. Like, I got the LLC, started marketing. I was just getting into it.
Started, yeah.
But by like May, I was like, I'm gonna quit my job. I dropped off this document to my supervisor. She looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I feel crazy, but it felt right.
I mean, you could argue, working there is crazy.
Yeah.
So
look. And I'm gonna tell y'all that, right? So, like, just on Airbnb alone, my Airbnb business, like, it did over 40K in the last 30 days, right? Just on Airbnb. Wow. I'm also on VRBO. But when I think to myself, like, man, what my Airbnb business did in the last 30 days, like, it made more than what I used to make in a year, Like,
yeah.
Who's the crazy one?
You know what I'm saying?
And Kemoy, one thing I want to stop, because I really want people to sit with your beginning story, right? You said you had student debt and a low paying job. I know there's so many of you guys out there, so many listeners who have that same story. It's such a typical story. We get out of school, we have debt, and we're just thrown into like this system. We're force fed into the system. Yeah. And I think what's important about your story is, the power of learning and like reading and freeing your mind and taking action, like saying like, yo, the system's not going to determine my life for me. I'm going to determine my own life. So I really want everybody to take that away, because I know that's such a common story. That was my story. So many of us millennials and people out there who want to.
I mean, let's be real. It's still my story. I still have student loan debt that you know we working off of. But you know the whole premise of even this whole show is to help inspire people to know there's other ways around it. And we couldn't have a better guest to kind of really explain or give an example of what it really means to just go all in. When you're tired of when you're tired of that rat race. But it came from an idea or a book in his case that kind of helped spur that. So
correct.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, and Kemoy, so you mentioned the Airbnb business. Can you talk about how you got introduced to that from real estate and wholesale?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously I was in wholesale and real estate. Actually finally did a deal like that September, my first deal.
Okay.
Did other businesses, was in network marketing.
Wait. How did that go? How did the first deal go? Was it smooth or were there any hiccups?
So it came from a direct mail. It was a direct mail campaign. If you don't know what direct mail is, like I'm literally sending out postcards to absentee owners, right? And it was this guy. He was from Trinidad. I'm like Jamaican, so we kind of had this like Caribbean connection.
Word.
He says, "Hey, I got this property. I go check it out." Go back and forth negotiating. Finally got to a price that I thought made sense. And then like I had like looked up every single homeowner on that block that owned the property under an LLC. It was like a little hack, right? Like if you look up owners that are like under an LLC, chances are that's an investor. So I called somebody that owned the property like 2 doors down. Hey, I got a property 2 houses away from yours. He got excited. He looked at the property like next day. We ended up working on the terms, and it was like I made a $5,500 spread. Didn't get rich, but man, when I tell you that $5,500, it was like it meant the world to me.
Yeah, it was on your own. You went out there and got it.
It was on my own. I got proof of concept. Wow, this thing actually worked. I actually put in the work to make it work, and I had just quit my job, so I needed that. I needed that proof. So from there, it was just like build. Yeah, like I said, I got involved in a couple of different businesses, and around 2017, one of my businesses had gotten there was a lot of challenges. I had built up this it was like a travel marketing company, and I had built it up pretty successfully. Had about 800 people within my sales organization.
Ooh, nice.
Was making a great passive income. And I got so used to making all this passive income from that business, when some issues happened, not even issues that were just because of me, but it was just more so like infrastructure issues with the company. I knew that I needed something else. I needed something more. And I was moving into a brand new apartment, and I was really excited about this apartment because it was like in a neighborhood that like I was more excited to be in. It was like a level up for me. And a good friend of mine, came to check out my apartment. And as they were like looking around the building, they said, "Man, this would be a cool place for an Airbnb." And I was like, I didn't have any Airbnbs. And I was like, okay, cool. That's whatever. But let me show you my new spot.
Yeah.
Right.
My new spot is fire. I just hooked it up.
You talking to me about Airbnbs? I'm trying to show you my spot. Like,
yeah.
You see the rug? It's alpaca.
Exactly. Right. I think it was cowhide. It was like a cowhide rug. I was excited. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was excited about my spot.
To level up.
Right. And so they say, yeah, this would be a cool spot for an Airbnb. And I didn't really think nothing of it. About a week or two goes by, and she's just like, "Yo, I just got a spot in your building. I'm going to use it for Airbnb." And I was like, "For real?" I was like, "Okay." Right.
Interesting.
And she just kind of, and then like, over a period of time, she's just kind of sharing with me the type of money that she's making. Like, first month she made over $1,500 in profit. And I know how much she spent. Like, she just paid like a very small deposit, pay the rent. Because I know what the deposit is. I know what the rent is because I'm staying there. And I knew she didn't spend a lot of money. And the fact that she was sharing with me her profits and how her profits were steadily growing, I'm like, man, you can really make all this money on Airbnb without actually owning a property. Like, that was like crazy to me. Because again, I was wholesaling real estate. So for me,
you kind of understood the concept of it, but like,
but for me, I was like, I thought in order to really make money off a property, you had to like buy it, be a landlord, rent it out.
Yeah.
I'm wholesaling properties to, you know, landlords and investors. So I was like, wow, so you don't even have to own it. You're making all this cash flow. And it was like, after a certain point, it was just too much to just kind of witness my own friend making all this money so easily.
Especially on your block. Like she's in your building.
In my building.
Making money.
In my building. Now I'm gonna share a disclaimer, right? So like for people that are listening to it, like I'm not saying to just kind of like rent or lease a random apartment and just throw it on Airbnb, because you want to do it the right way, right? And I'm saying this to say, because I'm the type of person, when I first started this industry, I did it completely wrong. And I was just renting out places, acting like I was gonna live there. And that didn't end up well. It just didn't end up well. I'll get kicked out of places. But here's what happened. I was making so much good money, so simple, that I realized how great this business is, but I really want to do this business the right way. And I really want to position myself to do it long term. So after getting kicked out of a couple places, I said to myself, man, how can I actually do this right? And what I started to do was I actually started being transparent and actually structuring deals with landlords and property managers to be able to lease out their properties, them being aware that I'm not living there. I'm actually using their property for a place of business and to generate money. And I started building relationships and actually started creating a long-term business. You know, so much to the point where, like, in one apartment building, like I got really cool with the landlord, right? I have 8 apartments in this one building, right? Like 8 apartments out of like 18 units.
Wow.
So, and every time there's a vacancy, guess who they go to?
You.
They go to me. And that happened because I had a mental shift. And instead of me doing it the wrong way, the illegal way, I said, hey, let me do it the right way. Let me actually partner with landlord and property managers. So that way, instead of hiding, they actually feed me more properties.
Right.
You know,
like, let me go speak to the man real quick and just let him know like what my plan, like what I'm actually trying to do.
Right.
You know, and create your own new sales funnel.
Right. Exactly. And it just got better and it just got better. And I started growing. And it's just like, and I built this business in a way where it's truly passive income. Like, you know, like I have a team, like I have cleaners, I have a handyman, like I have virtual assistants that run my communication. Like I have like a system, you know, so whereas though I don't have to really talk to guests every day. I don't have to clean properties. I don't have to be Mr. Fix-It. The business runs with or without me.
That's amazing.
And it's exciting because me personally, I love to travel, right? Like that's just something I really love to do. I've been to, I think to this point, about 42 countries. And it's cool because I can travel the world, you know, at my leisure while still making money. You know.
Interesting. Now, were you set up that way from the beginning, where having people kind of manage everything for you, or were you the one on the ground, like doing it, like, you know? No.
When I first got started, the problem is I'm Jamaican, right?
So you got a lot of jobs.
and the thing is, with you know, Jamaicans, we'll work really, really hard, right? Like 1 job, 2 jobs, tree jobs.
Tree jobs.
Yeah, like
working man.
Yeah, like it's in our blood. Like we don't mind it. We'll do it. Matter of fact, we take pride in working really, really hard.
Yeah.
So I was actually cleaning all my properties, right? Like if anything happened, I'll be there. But what happened was, you know, when I had 1 property that I was like, it wasn't so bad. But then when I had like, I think when it got to the point of having 3, I was like, hold up.
This is a job.
This is a job. Like
I'm a cleaning person now.
Yeah.
Like this isn't what I quit for.
I can't even travel. I gotta go clean.
Right. And it's like, man, I caught myself trying to save money by cleaning my own places, right? And here's what you have to understand with being an entrepreneur. You gotta, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, like a true business owner, you need to work on your business, not in your business, right? Like you need to get really good at outsourcing and delegating and separating yourself from minimum wage activity if you want to make a lot of money and scale up. Right. And I had to really learn that. I had to really break out of the habit of doing everything on my own. That's a really big thing for most entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Was that learned through experience, or was that from like a something you were reading? Like what gave you that mindset shift? 1, it was through experience, but then 2, it was also
from like going to like masterminds and events too. Like I think what broke the straw on the camel's back was like a year ago. I went to an event, not even that was a few months ago, and this lady was on stage and she was just like, "How many of you guys want to make, you know, millions and millions and millions of dollars?" And like everybody raised their hand. He's like,
right, that's why we're here.
Yeah, like, for real, right? I was like, yeah, like, you know, me, like, and she's like, and she's
like it's Oprah. You get a million, you get a million.
Right. And she was like, you need to separate yourself from minimum wage activity. And the thing is, I don't even think that was the first time I heard it, but I think it was where I was at in my life and how she said it. And I was like, yo, I need to really separate myself from minimum wage activity, you know? And I had a couple of virtual assistants and I already had some people on my team, but it was like, there were still like small things that I was doing. And I thought because it was small, it wasn't a big deal, but it was like really stuff that I could really easily outsource and delegate.
Yeah. So Kemoy, it's funny you're saying this because we actually went through this with the podcast a few months ago, man. Because, you know, especially when your business is predicated on something like creative, like you really want to have ownership over like the weeds and stuff like that. But, you know, what we found is, you know, you just don't get as much work done like that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You just don't. And like, if you can outsource it, especially like the monotonous work that's repetitive and redundant, you can outsource the work, do it. You know what I mean? Like we literally just went through that. So everything you're saying resonates 100%. Yeah.
It's like, damn, I know exactly what he's talking
about.
Yeah. And it's like when you start outsourcing and delegating all these like smaller tasks, number one, you don't even realize there's people out there that's really good at it. And two, that like they'll do it for like a really low cost. You know, like especially like people, you can get people from the Philippines, like you know, that don't really need to make a lot of money, but it means the world to them because of you know the economy that they're in. You know, and it also too, like when you start really delegating, outsourcing, you realize how much more time you can do the things that can make you more money. You start looking at your time so much differently, you know. And you start making so much more money. Like, it's so interesting. Like, the more you delegate, the more money you make. Because the things that can generate you more money, you can actually take the time out to do that because you're no longer getting robbed from doing the smaller things that wasn't really generating a lot of money.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I think whether it's school or, you know, wherever you were or however you were raised, like if you come from like immigrant parents like myself, you're always taught work hard. Like all you got to do is just work really hard and eventually it'll work out. And for them, it did. Like they were successful in their own right, just you know, getting here. But that really hits close home to me because it's like I want to work smart as opposed to like working hard. Like the work ethic still is going to be there, but you got to put it in things like you mentioned that actually can generate you a lot more money in the same amount of time that you would have spent doing a lot of like what Nick said, like a lot of the monotonous work. So that's a really important gem to kind of like, you know, sit back and really think about because, you know, you got to reprogram yourself because in your head, you're like, nah, I got to do everything to make sure it's right. As opposed to like, no, if you just explain what you want done, somebody can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is too, what I think a lot of people don't realize is with a job, it's physical labor. With building wealth, it's mental labor. The work is in the mind. Like the work is in how you have to figure out outsourcing and delegating, like that's mental labor. You got to like mentally figure out how can I do this in a way where as though I don't have to physically do as much. It's like, it's a thought process. Okay. I can put these pieces to the puzzle. Right. And it's like, it's mental labor. And a lot of times people look at somebody that's making a lot of money and they're like, man, like
he don't work hard.
They don't work hard.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing is, like, it's not necessarily true. The work is just different. The work is in the mind. It's just not in the physical.
Correct.
And that was a shift for me because I used to think people that made a lot of money, like I'll have like certain people that are like making a lot of bread. And it's like, yo, you really don't look like you do much. I'm like,
and I'm like, yo, you're always like chill, like you're always doing something that's not work related. Like,
right. And it's
you're
like,
at the gym at like 1 o'clock. Like, What's going on?
I just don't get it. But then what I realized is, you know what? Like the work is in their mind. Like they had to figure out how to actually do that. Like, and believe it or not, that's not easy. Like, it's a skill, right? So like me personally, like I'm ambitiously lazy, you know? So like I work.
That's a bar.
That's a bar.
That's a bar. I'm ambitiously lazy. New caption like, coming soon.
I have hey, royalties, I need that, right? But like, I don't mind working hard. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I come from a working hard family. Like, again, immigrant parents, you know. But the thing is, it's like I needed to shift the work, but I need to set work in a way where I work now, so that way I can be lazy later, right? Yeah. That's just how I had to start thinking.
And, so Kemoy, with the parents thing, I did want to ask you about that also, right? Because, to rewind a little bit, when you quit your job, you didn't have a plan. And like, even
yes and no. Yes. And
okay.
No. Yeah.
But so your friends and family throughout this process, how has it been, explaining what it is that you do to your friends and family? Were they ever scared or worried at some point? Or, because
they think you're crazy.
Yeah. When you step outside the traditional model, there's concern sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So when I had started that mastermind group and we were literally meeting up on a weekly basis, and these were like some of my closest friends, right? And we were bouncing off ideas so that way we can quit our jobs and become entrepreneurs. Like that's how I learned about wholesaling. Somebody brought it up at the round table. And from reading that book, Success Principles, Jack Canfield said, look, you need to surround yourself with the right people. You need to, not to say that you got to like cut people off or even like you got to cut family off or loved ones. No, but it's like, if you're in this certain place in your life where you really need to change and become, successful in business, and if you want to be wealthy and create all these streams of income, you need to really surround yourself with like-minded people that have a similar mindset, that's on a similar path, because it's really going to help you get to that point. It's going to make it it's just going to make it easier, because if you're around people that are not in that light, it's going to make it harder. They can't relate. You're going to feel alone. It's just, you know what I'm saying? So for me, during that time, I started only really hanging out with people that understood that understood that process, that understood that journey. Yeah. And my father, he was kind of entrepreneurial. So he kind of understood where I was coming from. Okay. Matter of fact, he actually brought me to like my first seminar, like randomly.
Wow. Oh, that's dope. That's really dope.
That's so dope. Yeah.
And funny thing is, when he brought me to that seminar, we were just like talking randomly, like during like a break session, and I had told him that I had quit my job. He was like, I know, that's why I brought you here. And I didn't tell him. That's the strange thing. Wow. I didn't even tell him that I quit my job. But I think he ended up like telling my mom, and then like for whatever reason, like I think when I had went home like a month later, my mom just kind of talked to me about it, and she was just like, well, I believe in you. I know you're gonna do what it takes, right? And my parents, like they even though my mom, she's very like pro school. Mm-hmm. I think because maybe I at least graduated college, she wasn't really worried too much, but she was just like, you know what, I know, because one thing my mom knows about me, I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah, she hated the fact that I didn't take school seriously, but she knew when I really want to do something, I always found a way. Like she knew that about me, so she always knew that I was gonna do whatever it took. So, and that's the thing too, right? Like, you have to be the type of person that gives the people around you that level of faith in you.
Yeah. Confidence. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people will start a business and like their spouse don't even believe in them, or their parents won't even believe in them. And it's like, the reason why they don't believe in you is because you haven't gave them a reason to believe in you. They've probably seen you quit something, or they've seen you be inconsistent, So it's like, sometimes their own disbelief isn't only just because of them. It's because you've showed them that you haven't taken responsibility for that you've done before. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's easy to just blame other people. Like, oh, no one believed him. We've heard every rapper has the same story. It's like, my teacher told me I would never make it.
It's like,
Yeah.
because you couldn't read. Like, of course, like, like what you expect. So
Right,
no, that's important to remember, like, and to keep it back, keep it back on yourself in terms of just understanding that, nobody's gonna be able to do it for you. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's like people will come around once they see you actually building something.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it felt crazy, but I knew that I was gonna do what it took.
So you go from wholesaling, coming across Airbnb rentals, starting to outsource your work. You go to a conference where someone really changes your mindset in terms of, how to scale up your business. From that point to now, how has that, shift manifested itself in terms of just like how things are going? I mean, especially talking about in like a COVID world still, like how's that been? How's that process been?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. So, I mean, like throughout all those 8 years, because it's been 8 years since 2013, and when I quit my job, when I really started building businesses, I've always been going to seminars, conferences, reading books. I've been so tapped into growing my mindset. It's like insane. I don't think there's a person out there that listens to more audios than me, right? Like I've just been obsessed with growing my mindset. And of course, like even during that time, I went through ups and downs with businesses, like I've had moments where like, I wondered if I was going to like, just like have to go back to a job. And, I've had certain breaking points. I never gave up, and I was always sacrificing, and I was always trying to become solution orientated with every problem. I was like, okay, cool. Like this sucks. I don't understand why it's happening. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I got to figure it out. And it was because of going through that journey, right? Even getting kicked out of properties, right? Like, oh no, like I'm getting kicked out of properties. I was making this good money. Like I had to shift my mindset, and I always had to think about how can I make this right? How can I make this better? What's the solution? Yeah. And even like when the pandemic hit, I think most entrepreneurs, most business owners kind of like went through issues, right? Like they didn't know what they were going to do with their business. They had encountered something that they probably never encountered before. So they had to figure it out. But because of the fact that I went through failure before, because I went through ups and downs, same situation. I just had to become solution oriented. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's like, I just always figure out a way. So like case in point, because when the pandemic first hit, I had lost a lot of bookings. I got a lot of cancellations. Mm. So what I had to do, I still got these properties. I still have expenses. So what I pretty much did was I started reaching out to travel nurses, right? If there was anybody that was still out here.
Wait, hold on.
Smart man. Smart man.
Yeah. How did you make that? Were you talking to somebody who happened to be a traveling nurse, or like somebody like?
So, all right, funny thing is, so I was really starting to think to myself, like, all right, who are the people that, even though this whole COVID thing is happening and it's going crazy, who are the people that are still moving and shaking? Mm-hmm. And the type of people were travel nurses. Matter of fact, travel nurses were making the most money that they've ever made at the height of the pandemic because they were the most needed. Hospitals were going crazy. There was a nurse shortage. So they were paying travel nurses these crazy contracts to have them travel to these different cities to take up these jobs. Well, guess what they need?
Somewhere to stay.
So I'm like, man, I got all these cancellations. I got all these bookings. I got all these properties that I need to still make money. So I'm like, okay, I need to start reaching out to travel nurses, right? So I would literally find travel nurse Facebook groups, and I'm literally jumping in these groups, and I'm just like, hey, if you looking for a place where I got a property, I'm DMing you. Like I'm aggressive about it, you know? I got to fill up these units, and I'm cutting deals. I'm making it happen. I'm filling up these units. So it's like, I started digging myself out of a hole, and I started getting back good again. Right. And it was like, boom, I learned in that situation, how to adapt with that. So now I know how to pandemic proof my Airbnb business. Right. Mm-hmm. Because what I've realized is these properties aren't just about accommodating people that are traveling for fun or leisure. Right. What I realize is everybody needs short-term rentals, whether people are traveling for fun, business, family matters, even emergencies.
Yeah.
You know, so the thing is, no matter what, there's always going to be a need for short-term rentals.
Shit, you
right?
think about it. You have the hurricane right now where people are displaced all over the place. You know what I mean?
Listen,
there's always.
I had a girl book my place, right, for just like I want to say like a good like couple weeks, and she sent the message to my virtual assistant because I see the notifications, and she was just like, hey, I'm booking your place because of the hurricane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking to my virtual assistants later on that day, and they're like, yeah. Matter of fact, she didn't even know because she booked one of my places in Baltimore. She didn't even know where she was gonna go. She just booked a random flight just to get out of there, wow. And it just so happened to be in Baltimore. And you know what I'm saying? So it's like she needed a place. So like my properties fulfill the need. So there's so many different reasons why, you know, these properties are a necessity, why they're an asset to people, you know?
Kemoy, another thing I did want to ask you, we talked about it a little bit before, but just before we started the interview, but the Baltimore real estate game, like it seems like any like real estate in Baltimore is like, that's like the home of the real estate hustlers. Like we had Eddie Colson on, shout out my boy Eddie. I know going even, you know, further back, I think his name was like Mark Whitten, like early on was about flipping houses. It seems like Baltimore is like where it is for like the real estate hustle. Is that true? Or could you just talk a little bit about the Baltimore market or, you know, any other, you know, markets that you've seen across the country?
Yeah. I mean, I think because I've been so tapped in within the real estate world, Baltimore is there's definitely a lot of investors in Baltimore. I definitely have a great relationship with a lot of, you know, wholesalers and flippers and, you know, just holders, just all types of investors in Baltimore. So there's definitely a huge, and it's definitely an investor friendly market for sure. You know, Mark Whitten, my guy, you know, Mark is cool. Okay. Definitely doing big things.
Word.
But there's definitely other like popping markets, you know, like I think when it comes to like, say like wholesaling real estate, I think Phoenix is like the hottest market. They call Phoenix like the guru capital. Right? Because that's where like a lot of matter of fact, there's a dude by the name of Sean Terry and he's out of Phoenix, right? And like that's where I learned really the wholesaling game, right? But there's a lot of other high level wholesalers out of Phoenix, right? There's Atlanta's a big real estate market. There's a lot of investors out there making it happen. I mean, got Tampa, Philly.
Now, are these markets? Now we're talking about wholesaling. Are they similar markets for Airbnbs, or do you kind of treat them separately?
Well, so I have a lot of people in my program, right? And I have people that are just literally all over the country. Like I have a bunch of people in my program that have Airbnbs in Philly. I have people in my program that have properties in Tampa, Atlanta, North Carolina, you know, Atlanta, Houston. Houston's like another crazy market. There's a lot of Airbnbs out there, a lot of short-term rental entrepreneurs. Just all over Denver, literally all over the country. Even some parts of the world. Like I got people in my program that are in Jamaica and other countries.
So we want to talk about that too. Let's talk a little bit more about your coaching, right? So you're teaching. Oh crap!
Man down.
just keep going. Just keep going. We're gonna edit it.
It's too much money on the table right now. Nick's camera went crazy. You mentioned like his coaching aspect and your master class and things like that. Do you separate those out in terms of like wholesaling as opposed to Airbnb, and they kind of teach different things, or are they kind of all similar, like foundational information? Yeah. So
I don't really coach people on wholesaling real estate. Like at this current time, like I wholesale very, very on the side. Right. I'm really tapped when it comes to the coaching. I really coach people in this Airbnb thing. Okay. Right. And I teach like literally people all around the world how to build an Airbnb business without owning any property. Right. So that's really the main core of my coaching program, rental arbitrage.
Are you I know you mentioned you've been to a lot of different countries, over 42 countries. Have you opened up your business into other countries in terms of having properties there or renting out properties there?
Not yet. That's definitely something that I'm highly interested in, right? So like, yeah, that's just kind of I'm open and interested. So I'm just looking for the right deal.
Okay.
But for sure, I travel so much. I always stay in different Airbnbs. I connect with a lot of different Airbnb entrepreneurs. So there's like some things on the table that I'm trying to put together for sure.
So, Kemoy, one thing about your coaching program I did want to ask you is you coach a lot of different students and you showed them how, to get into the game. What would you say makes the difference between one of your successful students and one of your students that don't fare too well in the program?
I mean, the successful students just execute, right? Like, I mean, in the program, I literally give them A to Z. Like, they could literally come in the program not knowing anything about Airbnb. They could have never booked an Airbnb. They could have never even went to the website. That's how little they can literally know about Airbnb, right? Mm. So they literally learn everything. There's also a script. Like, there's a script on exactly what to say to landlords and property managers to position yourself to get properties. Right. And the script works so solid. Right. Like, people are getting massive success with utilizing it. There's a Facebook group, right, where you're around other like-minded people that are achieving the same thing, that are getting properties. If you have questions, you can answer in the group. So like, I've created the environment for people to really tap into and come out as a champion and really tap into this short-term rental empire. So the people that succeed and the people that I guess are kind of like aren't or not really making it happen.
Haven't succeeded yet.
Succeeded yet. Yeah. Right. The ones that are succeeding are just taking massive action. They're just executing. And they're emotionally detaching themselves from hearing the word no. Mm-hmm. Because not every landlord or property manager is going to be on board. Just like with any business, right? Like, if you have a podcast, not every single person that you reach out to get on your podcast is going to say yes, right? Yeah. Like, it's just what it is, right? If you sell a product or service, not everybody's going to say yes. Like,
and Kemoy, I'm gonna tell you the reason I ask is because something like specifically what you do is like make money with Airbnb without owning property. Like, I imagine so many people is just like, oh, that's like, I'm just going to come up without having to put work in or having to, put any money in. It kind of sounds almost too good to be true. Yeah. So, I was wondering how you kind of convert that mind state from like, you got to execute, like you just said, and you got to put the work in. It's not going to be, just easy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I always tell people, like, honestly, the Airbnb is probably one of the most simple ways I've made the amount of money I've made in terms of like anything I've done in terms of business. But even though it's simple, you still have to execute on the simple steps. Like,
you mentioned the script too. That made me immediately think of sales. What if, like, let's say I'm an introvert. Let's say, like, do I have to like step outside of my comfort zone and reach out to people and pitch people in order to be successful in this game?
Yes.
Keep it real. We love it.
Yeah. And I'm an introvert, right? Mm-hmm. So I get it. But at the end of the day, if you want to change your life, if you want to make money, like, you gotta get out your comfort zone, right? Like,
out your comfort zone.
Yeah. Like, your comfort zone's your broke zone. So it's like, if you want to stay there, stay broke. But the script is designed to help you go through the process just a lot easier. Whether you don't have to be really you don't have to be good at sales. You have to be a good person. If you are a good person and you're genuine and you connect with people, you'll succeed in anything. And I think that's where people have like a misunderstanding
of what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't, like, it's called a business relationship. They always think of the first word, not the second word. It's the actual relationship. People like talking to you. Do they trust you? Like, that's way more important than anything you could ever show somebody. You know what I mean?
Facts. Yeah, that's 100% fact, man. And if that's the focus, then it's like success will come.
Yeah. Man, so much game, so many jewels. The story in itself is just like so inspiring. Kemoy, one thing we always ask our guests on our show is, what is your hustler mantra? Now, the hustler mantra is kind of like a quote or a phrase that you run your business or live your life by. So there it is, Kemoy. So if you had to give your hustler mantra, what would it be?
Man, I mean, like I told you, I read so many books, listened to so many audios, went to so many events. And if there's one like quote that has like resonated me for like just since the moment I've heard it, it's like been ringing in my head, right? It's do today what others won't to live tomorrow how others won't, right? Do today what others won't to live tomorrow how others won't, right? Like, so it's like most people aren't willing to do what it takes.
Right.
Most people make excuses. Most people say they want this. Most people wish they can have that. They get excited about what they see on social media, but most people aren't willing to do what it takes. And if you're just willing to do what most people won't, you'll live tomorrow how most people can't. And all those people, they'll look at you like you're some alien, and you're like you have things that they don't have, and that's not necessarily true. You just did what most people weren't willing to do, and that's why you'll live that life that most people just can't.
Hey, man, that in itself kind of encompasses the whole premise of just being an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Most people aren't entrepreneurs. Most people are just workers, and not in. And that's okay. I'm not talking about workers in like in a downgrading way, meaning people are comfortable in having, you know, their life like formatted for them. Like they want a lot of people just want, all right, I want a 9 to 5. This is what I want. I want to know what my breaks are. I want to know when I'm off. I want to know what holidays I have off. And other people can't stand that. You know, other people are like us are just like, that drives me crazy that someone can tell me when I can go do what I want. You know what I mean? So it's important to make that distinction and to figure out like what it is for you. And for the people that do, you know, like that formatted lifestyle, figure out how you can, you know, own your time to use that 9 to 5 for something you actually want to do. Like whether that's Airbnb or any of the other hosts of hustles we've come across on our show. But wow. I mean, that was definitely one of the most insightful episodes for sure. Me personally, Airbnb is something I know me and Nick talked about offline for a while now. So we're definitely gonna, you know, keep in touch with you and bring you back in a year, and you can tell us all about what countries you're in now. Airbnbs. But real quick, Kemoy, before we wrap up, do you want to tell people tell the Hustle fam where they can find like your social media accounts or your websites and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Kemoy _Martin, Kemoy KEMOY _MARTIN. Right. I'm always dropping game. I'm always helping the people. I'm always dropping just amazing content. Right. So I'm for the people. I love helping people. So you can definitely tap in on me there.
Wow. We appreciate that. And that's a wrap for this week's episode. Thanks for listening to the 99 Hustle podcast. Please be sure to visit 99hustle.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our amazing bonus content. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Always remember, there are 99 hustles. All you got to do is choose one.
99 hustles.